Hey everybody, in this video I want to go over what I have in the title right here. So it says how to learn and transformation through higher education. This is what I would call a continuation to, or something in addition to what I started back in that on learning video that I provided for you all under module 2. Now, depending on the semester, I might eventually move this on learning video from module 2 to module 1 so that future marketing students can see this sooner than later. But whatever the case may be, wherever this on learning video and then this one that I'm creating right now, wherever they end up, it's going to be all about learning and for me to help you make those connections. And one of the reasons that I'm doing that, one of the reasons that I'm creating these videos and providing them for you is so as of the time of the recording of this video, I've been teaching this marketing principles class for 2 years now. And every semester, it's been the same comment for many students. They've said, oh, I don't really know what marketing is. I don't know what it entails. I don't know what a marketing plan paper is, I don't know what a marketing plan is. Uh, I don't know what the expectations are. I'm really nervous, and so on and so forth. So the same basic concept. And I thought, oh, okay, given all that, then it sounds like I should create something to help you navigate this course, but also navigate your learning throughout your higher education experience and perhaps beyond. So here we are with this video. And I did not create a PowerPoint presentation or some kind of presentation. Instead, I just put it all in a Google Docs document and made it just be a bunch of words. So no pictures or anything like that. And so if you let me, or if you will let yourself allow yourself to watch this video, then I'd like to share a few pieces of information that for me personally, I found really useful in understanding how it is that we learn, the nature of learning, and what that means. So let's start with the concept of neuroplasticity. So that's our brain's ability to physically change in response to experience. So really what that means is we don't have to be stuck where we are. Our brains are able to continue learning. Now, it might not be as easy as when we were 5 years old, but our brains can continue to learn no matter our age. And I'm guessing that for many of you, I guess it wouldn't be guessing because through the years and even this current semester when I'm recording this, fall 2023, many of you, pretty much all of you, I think, have said that you're at Athens State to complete a degree. And hopefully, one of the things that result from that is that you will have learned something useful, regardless of what field you want to get into or what field you're already in. And you're just adding to that by getting these credentials. So hopefully, part of your higher education experience at Athens State is to learn something really useful. So our brains have that capacity to learn, right? Whatever that might be. And for this semester, as you're taking this class, you can add to that list of things to learn what marketing is. Everything that has to do with the principles of marketing, or this title of this class, marketing principles. And your main task is to create a marketing plan for some kind of brand, regardless of whether that's a well-known brand like Apple or Toyota and companies like that, or it could be a small business, or it could be yourself. So we all have that capacity to learn. And then number two, when we're learning something, say for example, the concept of marketing and writing a marketing plan paper, as I have you instructed on, how to go about doing that, tiny little connections in our brain called synapses form between neighboring neurons in the brain. So we're just making those little connections. what that means is, so number 3, the more we do that thing we're trying to learn, the more robust those connections get. Like they just get better. And that makes us better at what we do because the connections are stronger. So number 4, that leads me to this next point. Think about something that you do well now versus when you were first learning. So when I talk about this topic of neuroplasticity and learning, I usually refer to my experience with driving. So let's rewind back 1 or 2 years ago when I was 16. No, just kidding. When I was first out there learning how to drive, I remember how I had to really think about everything that I was doing. In fact, I remember asking my parents, like, "Hey, am I driving straight as I'm making my, the steering wheel go like this?" And then now, fast forward to 2023, it's not like that for me anymore, right? I don't really have to think about, okay, how do I make this straight? I just know how to do it. My brain knows how to do it. It's just the connections are there. So that took a lot of practice. It didn't just happen overnight. So now think about what you're trying to accomplish this semester. So let's be specific to this course. Marketing. If you're not familiar with marketing, if you're not familiar with writing about a marketing plan, and then for module 3, when I make this available, it's going to be about writing about a target market. Or wait, let me double check that actually. Let me pause this video. Okay, so I just double checked. It's not that for module 3 you will be writing about the target market, but you will be reading about it as part of your readings for module 3. So one of the chapters you will encounter has to do with target markets. And if it's something that you've never studied before, much less written about, then that's going to take a little bit of discomfort, right? Like it's gonna come with a little bit of discomfort because you're like, ooh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing, but let me read the textbook. Let me do some research and let me just get used to this whole idea. So you're going to have to think about it, right? Because like for me, I've been teaching this thing for 2 years, and then I have my marketing experience and I have my marketing background in my graduate studies. So it's like marketing plan. Oh yeah, I could do marketing plans for days. But for you, perhaps it might take a little bit more practice. And then you add to that, right, other things that you might also not be familiar with, like doing APA or citing your sources or using the library to find reliable information, or what's the other one? Using UJA to explain your position and so on. So all of that is part of the learning process. And it's okay to be a little uncomfortable because that's part of learning. If you stay in your comfort zone, so I'm referring back again to this thing I talked about, the optimal learning that happens in the stretch zone when we step out of our comfort zone, then that's where learning happens. But then don't get yourself to where you panic because then you're just in survival mode. Okay, so bottom line, it comes down to practice and perseverance, not giving up just because something doesn't make sense at the moment. So that's the background information. I have a few more things to talk about, so let's continue. There are things you can do to learn faster and more effectively. So I have one, two, three items. I kept it at 3. There's many more than that, but that's all I want to talk about in this video. First one is giving something your full attention. Makes sense, right? Like, have you ever tried to watch something or read something and you weren't really paying attention and you found yourself having to rewind or keep reading the same paragraph over and over? Well, there's not going to be any learning happening if you're not paying attention to that thing that you're trying to learn. So as you're reading our marketing textbook or as you're watching some of the lecture videos that I've made available about certain concepts, if you're not really paying attention or really just getting into what all this means, perhaps you're checking your email as you're listening to these videos or reading the textbook and you're just otherwise distracted, it makes sense that you're not going to learn anything, right? So think about this. It's easy to filter out info with so many things coming at us. For example, stop and think about your surroundings right now. So, me, up until now, when I'm finally to this point where I want to talk about this, I haven't thought about how my chair that I'm sitting on feels. I can feel that it's nice and sturdy. It's kind of, it moves around. So that's something that I haven't noticed up until now, right? And then the floor, like it's like, ooh, carpet, nice. So I haven't really thought about that either. So the whole point is we have the capability to tune something out just as much as we have the ability to focus on something. So we're more likely to retain information if we pay attention to what we're doing at the moment. And the reason for that is our brains are designed to focus on one thing at a time. And so I encourage you, as you're working on stuff for this class and your other classes, to just tune everything else out. Pay attention to that thing that you're learning. So, say I mentioned this a couple minutes ago, when it's time for your next assignment where I will be asking you to write about your target market, well, just kind of, don't worry about anything else. Read that part about target markets and then try to do your research and try to understand that concept and pay attention to that concept and really familiarize yourself with that and not think about anything else as you're learning that concept. All right, so that's attention. The next part is repetition. Practice makes perfect. There's a lot of truth to that, right? So going back to my example of driving, at this point, I've had 2 years of driving since I was 16. Not just kidding. But yeah, I've been driving for many years now, right? So I pretty much got it down. And when it comes to what you're learning in this class, it's not enough for you to hear or read about something or do something just once. So, for example, it's probably not going to be enough for you to just read the a particular topic in marketing, like for you to read the textbook once, like this chapter or that chapter. uh, it'll take reading it, revisiting it again, taking notes, and then revisiting again, watching the lecture videos again, not just once. So we need to repeat that thing. So remember, right, we're trying to make those connections, and those connections are not going to get any stronger if we only do something once, or if we don't focus our attention. And this is where I get into, like, briefly, just the mechanics behind that. So referring back to these connections, synapses from earlier, it takes a lot of energy to form those connections in our brain physically. And your brain's not going to invest in making any connections if you only do something once, because your brain's like, well, it can't be that important. It only happened once. Your brain, however, will recognize that it needs to reinforce something so you can do it better if your brain keeps seeing that thing going to, like, pop in your head over and over, like, oh, here we go again. We're learning about marketing again. I guess this is going to be important. Let's make those connections. And then space out your learning over multiple days. Don't try to read everything and learn everything like on Monday and then just, not worry about it the rest of the week. What I would say is space it out. It's more effective to use shorter learning periods over different days versus trying to do it all at once. And that kind of goes along with how I designed your assignments. Typically, you get at least 15 days to work on a particular writing. So assignment 4, for example, you have 15 days. Assignment 5, you'll have 15 days, and so on. So the due date doesn't mean that's when you start. That's when, like, really, if you finish on, like, I would say finish a couple of days before that, right? So that, uh, and also work on this assignment a little each day so that you're not overwhelming yourself trying to get it all done all at once. Now, I did put on here because I didn't want to say like it's you can only learn through repetition. There are exceptions to that. We can learn something fairly quickly if it's a high emotion event. So I put on there something that makes us really happy, sad, scared, or whatever. Something that's just really over the top, I guess. So going back to my example of driving, I'm pretty sure that as a new driver, there were many situations where I made mistakes, and there was a time. So let's see, let me use an example. I actually got a ticket for that. Unsafe lane change. So I was 16 and I guess I did a unsafe lane change and I didn't even really totally understand what that meant. But that whole experience of getting pulled over and being told that I did that and then being explained what that meant and what could have happened, that scared me. And from then on, you better believe that I learned how to switch lanes safely and to at least try to never do that again. Now, fortunately, technology has improved since then. We now have these blind spot monitors, right, for most newer vehicles. And so that's really helped out a lot. But back then, right, you pretty much have to like look back and ensure that all that is safe. But my point there is, yeah, I didn't have to do that over and over. I learned after the first time, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Now, that is related to the concept of making mistakes. And I know just based on experience, again, being in higher education for, let's see, 2023. So I've been doing this for 13 years now. I know that mistakes can cause a lot of anxiety in a lot of students. And I can certainly understand that. I myself, this semester, am taking a refresher in a few graduate marketing courses back at the University of Missouri. And yeah, I don't like making mistakes. Like I've already, like each assignment that I've turned in has had a mistake. And I'm like, oh, you know, I guess it did. I wouldn't say it caused me stress. I guess it's giving me more like, oh, what is going on? You know, why aren't you paying attention more? But anyway, going back to this idea, it's typical to stress out about mistakes. If you think about it, it makes sense. It tells our brain like, hey, you you made a mistake. Pay attention. Do better. This is important. And so when we get to that point where you make a mistake and you feel that way, how you react to that will determine whether you walk away learning something or not learning something. So let's see. When we feel stressed out, when we make mistakes, it's our body and brain telling us we made a mistake. So pay attention so it won't happen again. Okay. I kind of talked about that already. It's yours. Okay. I talked about that too. So if you walk away and never try again after making a mistake, then you're just teaching yourself to be less capable of coping with failure. So I will add to that for this class. I understand from previous semesters, and then at this point, I'm also seeing a lot of submissions already for assignments for your first big writing task. And many of you have expressed anxiety about that, thinking, oh, what if I did this wrong? Can I make changes later? And so on. And, I get it. It's your first semester with me for many of you, and you're not sure how this is going to go. And perhaps you've never done a paper of this scope because you saw the examples I gave you, right? Like over 20 pages for many of them. So when you get that first feedback on your assignment 4 and you made a few mistakes, that's okay. This is all part of the learning experience. If you walk away from that thinking, oh, I just totally suck at this, I'll never do this again, then this is what's going to happen. You're going to be less capable to cope with failure. However, if you embrace that, if you take a look at my feedback and change your thinking about it, that it's not a punishment, but more a gift, like I'm giving you the gift of feedback so that you can improve, then you won't be afraid to make those mistakes in the future. You'll be able to cope with failure because oh, this is an opportunity to learn something. So the takeaway for that is, for anything that you're trying to learn, don't be afraid to make those mistakes. Don't wait for everything to be perfect before you start something. Just go for it. And that's kind of why, if for those of you who watch my videos, as you're getting started with the marketing plan paper, I said, go for it. Don't be scared. Just do it. We'll figure this out together. And that's why I made it clear that this is an iterative process. Like, your assignment 4 does not have to be perfect because it's a draft. Like, you're going to keep adding to this marketing plan paper until it's time for the final submission in assignment 9. Now, the reward, that's the best part. The reward will be the feeling that comes with learning and getting better at something that you were once unfamiliar with. So by the end of the semester, you're going to be like, I am like a marketing guru now, right? So there you go. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is this whole idea here, just to tie it in to this learning that we've been talking about, or I've been talking about. Learning in higher education is meant to be transformative. It can provide you with new skills. That's the whole point of taking a class, right? It also allows you to imagine new possibilities. So one of the things I talked about in this Unlearning video is the ironic thing about learning is that the more you learn about something, the more you realize just how much you don't know, because there's so much more to learn. And along with that I didn't mention in the earlier video, is that this also allows you to imagine new possibilities. So before this semester, before you knew about marketing, well, you don't know what you don't know, right? But now that you know about marketing, hopefully at this point, after reading the first 5 or 7 chapters so far and getting into your writing your marketing plan paper, hopefully you're starting to imagine the new possibilities that go with understanding marketing, because marketing is a business function. So regardless of whether you are directly working in marketing yourself, the organization you work for, or that business you want to start, or the business you're running right now, there has to be a marketing function, right? That's the whole point, to get the word out there about your product or service. And so if you understand that, then you will understand what it is that your organization is trying to accomplish, even if you're not in marketing. Say you were in accounting or a different part of the organization, you're going to be like, yeah, I totally get it. And then on a personal level, you're also going to know that, oh, I can consider myself the product to be marketed. And in knowing the marketing principles, I can be effective in promoting myself. And then the last part, higher education can transform you, and along with that, your community. So let's see, what was I trying to go for here? Higher education. So learning, like, how do you know you've learned something? Well, it's when there's a change in your behavior. So there's that transformation there. So what I was trying to get at here, I was trying to remember. I wish I would have expanded more like I did here, but I remember now. It's more, don't just go through the motions of completing each class. You think about how, whatever it is that you're learning, regardless of what class it is, how can you use this to transform yourself? Because when you're transformed, then by extension, you could contribute something to your community, right? So that's my whole point there. All right, well, thank you for sticking till the end of the video to learn how to learn, and then to hear a little bit about the transformation that you can have through higher education. All right, so that's what I got. Talk to you all later.